Hey friends, what's up? Philip here with Points of Philip, and I'm actually here because, well, I kind of think that Capital One might actually be changing how they rate credit line increases. And well, the reason why I'm talking about that is because, well, if you've been on our Capital One, which is the Capital One subreddit, you can actually see, well, going back a couple of weeks, there's actually been, seems a huge increase of posts where people have been reporting huge increases in credit. There's been people who have been reporting $25,000 credit limit increases, $12,000 credit limit increases. There's one person who got a Venture One for good credit, was starting at $4,000, which really isn't something that most people get with that card, but Capital One seems to be, well, indulging a little bit. So we're going to get into what I think is going on and how that's going to change what I'm going to do moving forward. But in the meantime, what I'd like to do ask you guys to do is to like and subscribe. Doing that helps me and YouTube know that, well, what I'm doing is helpful for people like you. And that also helps the algorithm kind of show that out to more people. So I really appreciate that support as well. All right, now let's get into what's going on. So if you take a look at Reddit, I'm just going to pull up a couple of options. I'm not going to throw it on screen. So there's one basically where someone had a $40,000 credit limit. They recently were upgraded to a $52,000 credit limit. That was recent. There's also another one where someone was offered an upgrade to a Quicksilver card, and they were given a huge credit limit increase as well. And there's also another one where they were offered a credit line. So they currently had a credit line of $1,000, and they were increased to $12,000 with an offer for enhanced spending. And so, well, this is really interesting. So for those of you that know Capital One, and well, I'm someone who knew Capital One from way back when my credit wasn't the best. Capital One is known for having low credit limits, particularly if you're not in kind of this high kind of performer category. But there's all sorts of videos. If you just search Capital One bucketing, there's all sorts of videos where people talk about how bad this whole system can be, and well, talk about how that can actually hurt some people's credit, because if you only have Capital One cards and well, you only have $1,000 or $1,500 credit limit on that card, if you're putting your normal monthly spend on that card, then your reporting utilization is going to be quite high, and well, that can damage your score, at least in the short term. Now, you'd have to be able to pay off that balance before the statement close date in order to be able to actually show lower utilizations, which if you can do, that's great. But most people with that kind of credit profile don't have an extra $1,500 lying around before payday, right? So this is what Capital One has been known for. And now it seems like they're starting to hand out more and more upgrades or, credit line increases. So let's take a look at my Capital One credit card. So I'm going to go into my Extra wallet. If you are a fan of Extra wallets, and I really am too, or if you want to pick one up for yourself, there is a link in the description below for 10% off your next Extra wallet purchase. Now, that can be on top of discounts that are already applied, so that's really important to note. Bonus points, if you're an Amex person and you want to do Rakuten, you can get an extra 5x points back currently for an extra purchase through Rakuten. So that can also be super nice. Now I'm going to go into my Extra wallet, going to pick out my Capital One Duo, which I might actually be using more, and we're going to talk about that too. So I have the Capital One Venture card, which they won't actually give me the Venture X card, and well, they won't give me the Venture card with a sign-up bonus. So I actually product changed this from my Walmart card last year, and you can see that I've kind of been penalized for that a little bit. It's showing just kind of like it's bendy, it's plasticky. It's a solid plastic, like it's hardy, but it definitely is just kind of plastic. Now I also got the Saver card now. So I also have the Quicksilver card, which is my oldest current sitting open card. And so my credit limits as they are this card has a $3,500 credit limit. This card has a $4,500 credit limit, and then my Quicksilver card has a $500 credit limit. And so, well, there's not a lot of credit limits. In fact, they're my lowest issuing credit limit holder bank like ever. At least they were before they acquired Discover, and now, well, they're solidly middle tier for me. So there's been a couple of changes, right? So it seems to me that, they're changing how they take a look at credit increases. So let's take a look at. So I made a credit limit increase request last year, and at that point, my credit was actually about the same as it is now. And I did have actually decent velocity at that time as well. However, what they said was my credit profile wasn't eligible for a credit limit increase at that time. And what's interesting, so I decided to try it again last week, and what they said was actually different and interesting. So they said specifically the only reason that was quoted and not giving me a credit limit increase was that, well, I haven't been spending on the cards enough. And well, to be fair, they're right. I just started recently putting my everyday spend on the Venture card. And so there's currently only about a $500 balance on that right now. And well, I haven't been spending much more than 60, 80 bucks on my streaming subscriptions that I've been putting on my Saver card each month. And so, well, it's interesting that they're giving me that. So they're saying essentially that, well, my credit history, my documented history of Capital One is suitable for a credit limit increase, but because I'm not using their cards enough, then, well, I didn't get that credit limit increase request approved. And so that is an interesting difference. So they're actually showing people. Now, one of the other interesting data points that I've seen on Reddit with this is that some people are actually reporting that they're being told that their credit profile isn't in a group of people that is currently being accepted for credit limit increases. And so it seems to me that the bucketing program with Capital One is still in effect, but if you are outside of that bucket and you can escape it, it is possible for you to be able to get out. So what I'm going to do for the next 2 months is I'm only going to spend on these two cards primarily. Now I have to counter that with the fact that I'm going to go into my extra wallet and I'm going to pull out my Mesa homeowner card as well, because well, I have to spend $1,000 a month on this, on utilities and the pool guy and things like that. I get 3 points per dollar on that, and then once I spend that $1,000, I get my mortgage payment points as well. And so, well, I'm going to make sure that I spend at least $1,000 a month on this card. But moving forward, I am going to start putting my dining purchases and my grocery purchases on my Saver card. Now, interestingly enough, so my wife and I kind of have a hybrid version of shopping. So we like to get Walmart Plus delivery for kind of just household items that you don't really see a lot of variance in. So like your toilet paper, dish soap, toothpaste, things like that, even Greek yogurt or even some fruit like blueberries and blackberries. There's not a lot of variance between what Walmart has and what Publix or another grocery store would have. And so what we do is we put that on there. Now, I have been putting my grocery store purchases through Walmart on, well, whatever card I was working on a sign-up bonus for. However, last week, I recently concluded my sign-up bonus for my Gemini card and my sign-up bonus for my One Key card through Wells Fargo. So what that means is that, well, I'm kind of I kind of have open season on my credit cards, and I can kind of spend however I want. So what I'm going to do for the Walmart is I'm going to have to actually put that on my Venture card. And the reason why is because essentially this only gives you points on, this gives you 2 points per dollar on everything. Whereas with this one, it gives you 3 points per dollar on grocery purchases, but it has to be at a grocery store. And unfortunately, well, my Walmart doesn't count. Now, I have heard some people say that Walmart neighborhood stores do that. However, well, whenever they deliver from that store, it comes from a different profit center, so it's not going to bill that way. And so Walmart's going to have to go on my Venture card, but then in everything else, including medical spending and things like that, are going to go here. I recently had to take my wife to the emergency room for pneumonia, and well, that deposit went right on this card, and I got 2 points per dollar on that, which kind of made it sting a little bit less. She's recovering now; she's better. But anyway, so the Saver card is going to be my dining card, but it's also great because, well, if I want to go out to the movies, or if I want to, say, go to a concert or a musical or something downtown, well, then that gets 3 points per dollar on that as well, which is really nice. Now, here's the great thing about the Capital One Duo, and why I think people like it really a lot, is the Saver card has no annual fee, unless you get the Saver One card, which has a $39 annual fee, but I wouldn't recommend doing that. And then you have the Venture card. Now, the Venture card here has $95 annual fee. Now, the only reason why I don't have the Venture X is because, well, I wasn't approved for it. So I don't have that. However, if I didn't have lounge access with my American Express Platinum card, or my Ritz-Carlton card, I would probably try to get the Venture X through my wife, at least right now. And so, so this duo could either cost you $95 a year, or it could also cost you $395 a year. And if you do the $395 Venture X card, that one comes with, it still has the same multiplier, so 2x on every purchase with no limits, no caps. But then that also comes with a $300 travel credit redeemable through the Capital One travel portal. And then it also gives you 10,000 Capital One miles after your anniversary date. And so, well, if you put those things together, it seems like it maybe pays you $5 to have the card. And so it could be worthwhile to have if you have that sort of money to lie around. But in the event that you don't, this is not a bad option. Now, one of the interesting things too is that Capital One presents itself as you have to have a venture card in order to transfer your cashback bonus to a different or to transfer partners. Now, here's the great thing about Capital One is that you can actually transfer any cashback that you earn on any of their core cards. So the Quicksilver card has 1.5% cash back. I'm looking for mine now. Here it is. And it gets 1.5% cash back on all purchases, and it has no annual fee. So if I didn't have the Venture card, or if I wanted to have the Capital One Duo, where I didn't want to have an annual fee, what would I do? Well, I would get the Venture One card, which I do have an example of here. This is an interesting option. So this has no annual fee, but I don't recommend if you do have it, not that you don't spend on it, because it only earns 1.25 points per dollar spent. However, if you do have the Venture One card and you have the Quicksilver card, I would put most of my everyday spend on the Quicksilver card because that gets 1.5% back, which you can transfer to your Venture card, and that becomes 1.5x back, which is actually better than what you get on these multipliers. And then you can actually transfer those points out. And the same thing for the Saver card. If you have the Saver card and the Venture One, then essentially you can transfer your Saver card earnings out to transfer partners with Capital One with no annual fee. And so this is an interesting option. Now, so what I'm going to be doing moving forward is I'm going to be putting all of my spend on the Capital One Venture card and the Saver card for the next 2 months. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to see if they're going to allow me to actually just move forward and get a credit limit increase. And if they do, I'll tell you what is going on and kind of what those results are. But anyway, thanks so much for listening to me kind of talk about this interesting new thing with Capital One. And well, I can't wait to see you again. Until next time.